Ever feel like something's missing? Like you're doing all the right things, but still feel kind of empty?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Today, we're diving deep into that feeling of emptiness, that void.
Ooh, exciting. Where are we headed with this?
Well, we found this episode of a Spanish podcast called Mindfulness Podcast.
Oh, cool.
It's called Llenando el Vacío, Reflexiones y Estrategias. Don't worry, you don't need to brush up on your Spanish. We got you.
Okay, good. What does it mean?
Filling the void. Reflections and strategies.
Yeah.
And it really gets to the heart of why so many of us feel this way, even when, on paper, things seem pretty good.
Right, like you've got the job, the partner, the house, the whole 9 yards, but there's still this nagging sense of, is this it?
Exactly. And the podcast makes this really interesting point right off the bat. They say feeling this void, it's not a sign of weakness or like a modern day problem.
It's not.
Nope. It's actually like a universal human experience. Philosophers have been wrestling with this for centuries.
Whoa, I never thought of it that way. Makes you feel a little less alone, right?
Totally. And they go on to explain that the void isn't about lacking material things.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's more about a disconnect between what we're doing with our lives and our deeper values, what we truly desire.
So like you could be achieving all these external goals, but still feel empty because it's not aligned with what truly matters to you.
Bingo. Like imagine hitting that big promotion you've been working towards, but then you get there and it's like, wait, this isn't what I thought it would be. It's not fulfilling.
Been there. So if it's all about this disconnect, how do we bridge that gap? How do we even figure out what our true values are?
That's where the good stuff comes in. The podcast really stresses the importance of self-reflection. They suggest carving out a few minutes each day.
Just to be with yourself?
Yep. To sit with your thoughts and feelings, no distractions, really explore what's going on inside.
Easier said than done in our always-on world.
Right. But they even suggest something super simple. Journaling.
Journaling. Dear diary.
I know it sounds a little old school, but trust me, there's some serious science behind it.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Basically, when you write things down, you're forced to articulate your feelings. And in that process, you start to notice patterns, things you might not have even realized you were thinking or feeling.
Like hidden desires that are driving your actions.
Exactly. And for me, journaling is almost like having a conversation with myself. Sometimes I'm genuinely surprised by what comes out on the page. It's wild.
I've actually dabbled in journaling before. Might be time to dust off that old notebook.
I highly recommend it. But here's another key point from the podcast.
Yeah.
We don't have to figure this all out on our own.
Okay, that's a relief.
Connection is a huge part of this whole filling the void thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Humans are social creatures, right?
Exactly. We're wired for connection. And talking to someone you trust about how you're feeling, it can be so validating. You realize you're not alone in this.
It's like that saying, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Right. Have you ever noticed how just talking something out with a friend can help you see things from a totally different perspective?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm thinking until I start talking about it.
It's like magic. So we've got self-reflection and connection as the foundation.
Yeah.
And then the podcast suggests taking it a step further by trying new things.
I like where this is going.
Me too.
Right.
They give a great example, and it's something I've personally tried. Learning to play a musical instrument.
Oh, interesting. Did you stick with it?
I tried. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I dabbled with the ukulele for a while, but even though I wasn't exactly a natural, the process of learning something new was so engaging. It brought this sense of playfulness back into my life.
That's awesome.
And it doesn't even have to be anything big, right? Could be taking a cooking class, joining a hiking group, anything that sparks that curiosity.
Yeah, like anything that gets you out of your routine and stretches you a little. I'm all for that.
Totally. But, and here's where things get really interesting. The podcast also talks about embracing the so-called negative emotions.
Negative emotions, like sadness, grief, anger.
Yep, all that good stuff. They make the argument that resisting these emotions actually keeps us stuck.
Huh, interesting. So instead of trying to push those feelings away, we should lean into them.
Exactly. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but think about it. Have you ever tried to bottle up a difficult emotion?
Oh, all the time.
What happens? It just festers and grows bigger.
Oh, yeah. Totally backfires.
The podcast suggests that if we allow ourselves to feel the emotion fully, to actually process it, it can actually be incredibly liberating.
Okay, that makes sense. I've definitely noticed that when I try to ignore a negative emotion, it tends to come out in other ways, like maybe I get more irritable or have trouble sleeping.
Exactly. It's like it's got to come out somehow. And there's actually a ton of research that shows suppressing emotions is not only bad for our mental health, but it can manifest physically too.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So embracing those tough emotions, it's actually part of being resilient.
It is. It's like acknowledging that life is full of ups and downs, and it's okay to feel the full spectrum of human emotions. And finally, the podcast talks about the importance of gratitude.
Gratitude, I love that.
Me too. But what's really cool is that gratitude isn't just some fluffy, feel-good practice.
Okay, tell me more.
There's a lot of research that shows it can actually rewire our brains to focus on the positive, which leads to increased happiness and reduced stress.
No way. So just by focusing on what we're grateful for, we can actually change our brain chemistry.
Yep, it's pretty amazing. They suggest a simple practice, which I've tried myself, and it really works. Each day, just write down 3 things you're grateful for.
3 things, that's doable.
It is. And it sounds so simple, but it can really shift your perspective, especially on tough days.
It's like a little reminder of all the good things, big and small, that are already present in your life.
Exactly. So we covered a lot today, huh?
We did! It's like a roadmap for filling that void.
Right. And the main takeaway is feeling empty, it's not a flaw. It's often a sign that we need to reconnect with ourselves and what truly matters. We talked about self-reflection, the power of connection, trying new things, embracing all our emotions, and of course, cultivating gratitude.
And all of those things are within our control.
Exactly. This isn't about reaching some perfect state of happiness. It's an ongoing journey. And we have the power to make choices that lead to a more intentional, more fulfilling life.
I love that. It's empowering.
It is. So as you go about your day, I want you to ask yourself, what's one small step you can take, inspired by today's deep dive, to start feeling more connected, more purposeful?
Maybe it's writing in a journal, calling a friend, or just noticing things you're grateful for.
Exactly. Remember, the power to create a life that truly resonates with you, it lies within you.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.